Let's explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over to the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there. Ghost will be joining us shortly. He's not pulling an alpha here. He will be here momentarily. Sad that I have to go there. No, yeah, he's taking care of something, but he'll be here in just a minute. So in the meantime, you've got me, just me, for the beginning of the show, at least. Oh, there he is. All right, welcome to the show, Ghost. Happy St. Patrick's Day, brother.
Yes. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I think you're Irish. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that McCormick is most likely an Irish origin.
Yes, my my dad's entire family is hardcore Catholic Irish Catholic. Like my uncle went to Notre Dame, and yeah, so it's like very serious on my dad's side. My mom's side Scottish, but 100%.
Do you know how much I hate Notre Dame?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, I understand. It's one of those schools that's very divisive. It's like either love
join a conference.
Yeah, no conference. I know that's wild, but yeah, man.
That's the main reason. Nothing against the school itself. Obviously, I'm Catholic in name only.
Yeah,
I know.
It's a sports thing. It's a sports thing. I get it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get rocking, let's go ahead and get a word from a couple of our sponsors real quick. And since it is St. Patrick's Day, why not hear from the Badlands leprechaun himself?
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bottle discounts.
I don't know if you ever noticed this, Ghost, but at the very end of that ad, when BB is reeling in the reel, his hand goes through the reel.
Yeah, I did actually.
That might be AI, dude.
Yeah, I did notice that, and it made me a little concerned that wasn't actually Burning Bright.
BB, just BB.
Yeah, BB. Yes.
What
you did there. I see what you did there.
I think he might be AI. Man, that is interesting. All right, let's hit our next sponsor. We'll talk more about BB and AI. What's up?
Yeah. No. Hit the next sponsor, and then we'll talk.
All right, guys. The VIP sale is happening right now at CB Distillery. For a limited time, you can save up to 50% on everything. When you use promo code RUMBLE, it is the perfect time to stock up. If you're looking for better sleep, If you're battling daily stress or trying to ease that nagging pain after exercise, CB Distillery has a plant-based solution just for you. CB Distillery's plant-based solutions support sleep, less stress, pain after exercise, mood, and focus. And yes, they've got CBD for your beloved pets too. I know my pets have to have the best of the best, and so they get CB Distillery every single day. Every CB Distillery product is made with premium quality clean ingredients, no fillers or artificial anything. And with over 2 million customers, CB Distillery is the trusted name in CBD. So if better sleep, calmer days, or natural relief sounds good, this is your chance to save. Take advantage of the VIP sale and save up to 50% site-wide using promo code RUMBLE. But hurry, because it won't last long. Visit cbdistillery.com and use promo code RUMBLE to save 50%. Again, that's cbdistillery.com. Specific product availability depends on individual state regulations. All right, so go ahead, man. What were you saying? I'm going on.
I was just going to say, just like before we get going, did you see that Rick Grinnell said that you sound vaccinated on X?
I did. I responded to that with a
Did you?
Chris Paul's meme, and gave homage to that as well.
What a legend! What a legend, man! What a legend! Both of them. But Rick Grinnell is one of the guys in the administration one of the few in the administration that I have a really, really good feeling about. So,
well, let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, so here it is. So we'll share that screen here. Rick Grinnell actually follows me on X, so there's a good chance that he will see that.
Nice.
So, yeah, you sound vaccinated. Rick Grinnell, one of the legends, man. One of the legends.
I also saw that Chris got a shout out in Seth Geshel's new book.
That's who did?
Cool. Chris did. Chris Paul.
Oh, yeah. Him and Seth and Chris, he's talked about it before. They're pretty close. So that's cool. I think I'm going to be seeing him on Saturday at an event up in Central Florida.
Nice.
I think he's going to be there. I know it's kind of the people in that sphere. So looking forward to that. And maybe I'll get my signed copy there. So guys, if you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up, and let's go ahead and jump into the news. And the first story that I've got up today, because in the words of Ash Aswavin, all shows now are why we vote. Just the news. Britain had meltdown when China hacked voter files, but the U.S. Intel kept it a secret in America. Great Britain revealed 2 years ago that its voter registration databases were hacked by China, and it turns out the U.S. intelligence harbored its own secret at that time, knowing since 2020 that Beijing also gained access to American voter registration data. Quote, redacted Chinese intelligence officials analyzed multiple U.S. states' redacted election voter registration data, redacted to conduct public opinion analysis on the 2020 U.S. general election, and, quote, stated a once highly classified April 2020 National Intelligence Council memo entitled Cyber Operations Enabling Expansive Authoritarianism. Now, I maybe my dates are mixed up here, but I'm pretty sure April 2020 predates the November 3rd, 2020 election. I think. I could be wrong on that. Do you know anything about that, Gordon? Does April 2020, did that come before or after November 2020?
I'm going to have to ask Grok to verify if that's real or not.
I think so, too. Maybe double check on ChatGPT as well.
Okay.
That memo, heavily redacted, was declassified by the Biden administration 2 years after it was written. 6 years later, the U.S. intelligence community has yet to fully inform the American people or Congress of the breadth of the evidence it possesses of China's actions. DNI Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe are working to declassify a potentially explosive tranche of documents showing what China did and who in U.S. government knew and when. Republican National Committee Chair Joe Gruters, who is Trump's point man for the 2026 midterm elections, said that he himself was unaware of the intelligence. Quote, what's crazy is the fact that China has access to these voter rolls, but we don't, said Gruters. And that, that's a big point right there to hammer home on this, is that, and we've known this for a while. This is not anything new in the election sphere. However, it's new. First, it's new to the, the normie minds out there who are like, oh, that's pure conspiracy theory rhetoric that China stole the election or China was involved or China had access to the database. Did they steal the entire election? No. Did they? Most likely no, I should say. Did they, have the ability to influence and impact the election? Absolutely. No question. And now we don't know, maybe when they release these documents that D&I Gabbard and Director Ratcliffe are talking about, maybe we'll get some more insight into what China actually did. But reading on, it says, in the hands of a foreign power, such data could be used to mimic social personas designed to influence elections, almost like those people on social media are fake, or to make absentee ballot requests to cast fake votes, something the FBI feared China might already be doing in the 2020 election, according to recently declassified documents. Quote, there's as much evidence of China's access to U.S. voter registration files as what eventually prompted outcry in Britain, said one intelligence official who worked for Biden and declined to be named. We knew in April of 2020 that Chinese intelligence had voter registration data from multiple states and was analyzing it with an eye toward the 2020 election, says former NIC officer Christopher Porter. But the CIA blocked efforts to inform President Trump and later stopped many of these reports from being made available to Congress. Right there, the CIA blocked efforts to inform President Trump. If you can prove that, holy shit. If you can prove that the CIA blocked giving intelligence to the President of the United States, that is, especially considering Executive Order 13848, right? Which would explicitly speak to this massive issue there. CIA officials.
I couldn't imagine the CIA ever doing something like that, though, right?
No, they would never do anything like that. It's totally up and up organization right there of the utmost integrity and honor. And you should never, ever question anything that they've done. Period. Don't kill me, CIA. CIA officials are working on answers to questions submitted by Just the News, including the number of states impacted and whether the states were informed. And then lastly, we'll jump down here. Just a refresher that last June, Kash Patel turned over intelligence reports from 2020, which raised concerns that China had plans to mass produce fake U.S. driver's licenses to carry out a scheme to swing the election to Biden with fake mail-in ballots. It was sent as an uncorroborated advisory to U.S. intelligence agencies on August 24th, 2020, and then suddenly recalled in September of 2020, the day after then FBI Director Chris Wray testified to Congress that he had not seen any large-scale voter fraud efforts. Customs and Border Protection said in July of 2020, part of the refresher, right? Bring back these old stories. That in July of 2020, fraudulent driver's licenses continue to be found by Customs and Border Protection officers at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. From January through June of 2020, CBP, quote, seized 1,513 shipments with fraudulent documents, a total of 19,888 counterfeit U.S. driver's license arriving predominantly from China and Hong Kong. It's crazy how all of this is coming back around again. The other part about this is, I posted this morning that I think everybody owes True the Vote an apology. This was part of the basis of what we did when we went to the Pitt event in Arizona, which is actually where I met John for the first time.
I remember that. Like I was tracking it from a distance, but I remember the connections that are being listed here.
Now, these documents don't imply anything specifically at that. However, this was an investigation into Connick and the CEO, Eugene Yu, and they were based in Michigan. Now, what ended up happening with that story is Los Angeles, the district attorney in Los Angeles, Pierre Gascon, who was I think, or is it George Gascon or Pierre? Pierre Gascon was
George Gascon is the guy in is it Romania? I think it's Romania.
No, George Gascon. Who's the LA?
Oh, George Gascon is the mayor of was he the mayor of LA?
Attorney.
I'm getting my Gascons mixed up, I believe.
Now I'm confusing. It is George.
Yeah, the
George
district attorney of LA. District attorney of LA. I'm getting my Gascons mixed up. I apologize.
George Gascon had indicted Eugene Yu in Los Angeles for, a company based in Michigan, which was immediately everybody was like celebrating, like, look at this. What the hell? A Soros-backed district attorney is going after this. What's going on here? And they started going through this. And Pierre Gascon was for the Colts. There you go. Not baseball player. I'm thinking of Pierre, the fast guy that played for the Marlins. Juan Pierre. I'm all over the place this morning, guys. It's St. Patrick's Day, man. Got the Irish coffee going. No, I don't.
Dude, Pierre Gascon was the wide receiver in the NFL, right?
Yes, yeah.
Dude, yeah, most receptions of all time in a single season for the Redskins, which isn't a huge feat, but
So the takeaway from all of this is, as this unfolds and we figure out who the actual actors are, is that Connick story going to become relevant again? Because Gascon in Los Angeles dismissed the case and then paid a $5 million wrongful prosecution settlement to the CEO. And it's not lost on me that one of the prosecutors that was investigating that case, that wanted to continue with that case and was demoted, right? He was demoted from his position after that case or during that case, is now working for the DOJ. And he was one of the signees on the Fulton County, or not signees, but he was one of the people that they said, if you got stuff, send it to this guy. And he was on that letter that Harmeet Dillon sent to Fulton County, several months back before everything else that took place in Fulton County. So again, this is a pretty big story. All shows are why we vote now. And there we go.
By the way, Real Aggie in the chat clarified Pierre Garcon was his name. He's right. It wasn't Pierre Gascon in the NFL. Yeah,
Gascon was from Beauty and the Beast. That's a really popular name for such a strange name.
Obscure name, yeah.
Is it? No, it was Gaston. And so maybe it's just a lot of names that sound like that.
Yeah, it must be some sort of a conspiracy. I have to ask Rock.
Where the heck are we going this morning? All right, so let's jump into this story here. We've got President Trump. Well, hold on. Before we get into President Trump, let's just play this clip just because it's hilarious. President Trump ripping on Gavin Newsom, and then we'll get into the actual news value stuff. Let me turn the volume up here.
Hey, while you're playing this, check the private chat and just tell me if you've seen that.
Okay.
Very bad thing for our country if they don't. We're just asking for basic things. Think of it. You can't have voter ID. Do you know in California, if you ask a person to show their identification, they have the right to put you in jail. If you're an official and you say, may I please see your identification, you're subject to going to jail. That's how crazy it's gotten with a low IQ person, because Gavin Newsom has admitted that he has learning disabilities. Honestly, I'm all for people with learning disabilities, but not for my president. I think a president should not have learning disabilities, okay? And I know it's highly controversial to say such a horrible thing. The president of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia, everything about him is dumb. But then he looked at the audience and said, but I'm smarter than you, or something like that. That was pretty stupid. So now on top of everything else, I call him a racist because it happened to be a black audience. I will tell you this. I think it was the worst interview I've ever seen of any human being in my life. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
So
I love him so much, dude. I just love him so much.
It's funny because this is right on line with the John Fetterman 2022 story, right? John Fetterman came out here and did the fracking, and I don't believe in fracking, and I do believe in fracking, and I don't believe in fracking, right? He did all this. He had the teleprompter. He was like, his responses were delayed by like 15 seconds. Like they would ask a question and he'd just be sitting there like, oh, it's my turn. This is not like, there's a strong difference between you should not be leading the country and disparaging somebody that actually has a legitimate disability or something along those lines. And Trump calls it out perfectly there. We said this about Newsom when that interview took place. Like, I don't want a president that's dyslexic. I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's not, there's a lot of people that are dyslexic. It's not the most, handicapping. It's not the most detrimental handicap that you can have. However, pretty significant thing when you're dealing with, crises where you're thinking on the fly. Does stress make the dyslexia worse? And, are you going to confuse Iran with Iraq? Are you going to confuse, something along those lines? Not something we need in a president.
Yeah, I mean, all things equal, yes, you would prefer not to have that. I mean, I would take someone with dyslexia who was like honest and based over pretty much anyone that we have to choose from in Washington after Trump. Maybe save for a few, but I just love the fact that, like, last night I was on Culture of Change with Ash and we were watching clips of Trump from like 2016 when he was just bodying people, like just calling people out. Gave out Lindsey Graham's personal phone number at one of the rallies and told everybody to call him and tell me he was a scumbag. It's like, this is vintage Trump. I love this. We don't ever get this anymore because he's, president, and he does, I think, carry himself. I think he's presidential, whatever that word actually means. But just the fact that he just called Gavin Newsom retarded and then said, a retarded person shouldn't be president, which is logically sound. A+ stuff. And by the way, this is why Trump's a genius, is because Newsom tried to use that, like, I'm retarded just like the rest of you. I have a learning disability just like all of you. I'm no different from all of you. He tried to use it as like I'm just like the rest of you. And then Trump was like, oh, so you're retarded? Is that what you're saying? Well, you can't be president then. I'm not saying dyslexic people are retarded, guys. I'm just teasing and having fun.
You kind of are.
Yeah, I'm just teasing everybody. Yeah, I mean, look, I had my own issues growing up too. So
I would definitely not classify those. First and foremost, I stand firmly by retardation is your own capable mind, and you restricting it has nothing to do with a mental handicap.
Agreed.
But I get
totally agree with that. It is a self-induced handicap. Yes,
it is.
Yes.
To disparage somebody that's mentally handicapped and assume that they, are just limiting themselves is absolutely retarded.
That is the best explanation I've ever heard for someone to explain what the actual, like, what the derogative form of retard actually means. It's not something, a self-induced handicap. I love that. I'm going to use that.
Calling somebody retarded if they're actually mentally handicapped is incredibly insulting. Calling somebody that's perfectly capable retarded means that they are perfectly capable and they're choosing not to do something. They are stopping themselves. They are retarding themselves from their full capability. But moving on from that, that was just a funny little clip of President Trump, getting into it, laying the.
I want more of that, dude. I want more vintage Trump. And by the way, I do think that he really has, like, become the Joker. We'll talk about that more, the geopolitics stuff. But I feel like he really is. I've been joking about that for years now. That now he tried to be Bruce Wayne, but that didn't work. So now he's going to be the Joker, and he kind of is adopting that, like, from a narrative standpoint, the way he speaks about stuff and the way he talks about stuff now, like geopolitically, he's being very, very provocative. And I think the only way you get away with that is if you're actually working with other world leaders to bring world peace.
All right, let's jump into this story here. From CNBC, U.S. judge upends Kennedy's overhaul of childhood vaccine policies. Wait till you hear this shit. U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy in Boston sided with the American Academy of Pediatrics and other medical groups, which said that health regulators had acted unlawfully to carry out Kennedy's agenda of upending immunization policies, and warned the changes will reduce vaccination rates and harm public health. Yes, it will reduce vaccination rates. I don't believe it'll harm public health. Also, does that name Judge Brian Murphy sound familiar? We were literally just talking about him the other day because he's the guy that got the pee-pee slap at the appellate court when they overturned his deportation policy, third country deportation policy. The appellate court in a 2-1 decision gave him the pee-pee slap. Time to get rid of these district judges, man. Murphy's ruling forced the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices to postpone a meeting set to begin on Wednesday after he concluded it was not lawfully constituted and blocked Kennedy's 13 appointees on it. Murphy said that for decades, the U.S. had been focused on the eradication and reduction of diseases using vaccines. Bullshit. Which were developed through, quote, a method scientific in nature and codified into law through procedural requirements. Listen to that sentence, Gordon. Codified, whatever you want to say, codified into law through procedural requirements. There's only one way to codify something in the law, and that is for those 435 members in the House of Representatives, the 100 members in the U.S. Senate, and the President of the United States to get together, pass a bill, and then the president signs it. Then it is codified into law. Procedural requirements? Get the fuck out of here. The CDC has no authority to make law. But anyways.
Yeah. And isn't it, well, it's the FDA, right, that like approves the vaccine?
No, the CDC. This would be.
Is it the CDC? Okay. But the FDA approves like the medicines.
Well, the CDC recommends it. The FDA has to approve it.
Has to approve it. Yeah. And the FDA approval process is a joke. It's like that's totally political and totally like all nepotism based.
Yeah, well, like what percentage of royalties are you going to give me for the sale of your vaccine?
Or like what cushy job are you going to give me on your board when I retire from the FDA?
Yep. And then you sit there and redact it when the people find out about your honey, your well, it's not a honey pot, but well, I guess it could be a honey pot, like honey's often given value, but your treasure chest. There you go. When your treasure chest is exposed, redact the actual amounts that you were making from the approval of said, vaccines around a certain COVID variant. The judge blocked Kennedy's 13 ACIP appointees. That's the Advisory Committee on Immunization procedure or I don't know what the protocols. I don't know. From continuing to serve in their position and upended their votes that they had previously taken to reshape vaccine policies. The plaintiffs argued that the CDC acted unlawfully on January 5th when it cut the number of routinely recommended childhood vaccinations to 11 and downgraded immunization recommendations for 6 diseases, including rotavirus, influenza, and hepatitis A. Murphy agreed, saying that the CDC lacked authority to unilaterally change immunization schedule without consulting the ACIP. And he said the committee itself was unlawfully constituted and no longer complied with the Federal Advisory Committee Act's requirements for balance after Kennedy last year removed and replaced all 17 independent experts who previously served on the panel. So they can't actually get the ACIP, the committee that recommends, vaccines. They can't get them for recommending the vaccines. So they just rule them unconstitutional, illegitimate, which is, by the way, absolutely freaking insane that, these people, Trump appointed Kennedy appointed them. Where is the judiciary have any role in that whatsoever? But this is the same thing they're doing to Carrie Lake at USAGM. The same kind of thing they did there on the Merit Protection Board. They did that, in protecting the people there. I mean, the district court level has gone completely fucking rogue.
Yeah, I would agree. That's the whole the Federalist. It's two things. It's the Federalist system, which is a vertical thing, and then the balance of powers, the 3 branches of government, which is a horizontal thing. Both of them are totally skewed and just absolutely corrupted, right? And that's what needs to be fixed. The Federalist system, of course, being the layers of government, federal, state, local, and then the 3 branches of government, which is horizontal, legislative, judicial, executive. All of it is just totally screwed up, and that's what needs to be cleaned out. And there are lots of good judges out there. We've seen, I think, plenty of them rule wisely, but there are plenty of bad judges too. And by the way, even in like a quote unquote perfect ideal system, you're still going to get judges that have bad rulings. But there are egregious patterns that emerge like this that suggests something more than just bad judgment.
Todd Blanche put this out on X. How many times can Judge Murphy get reversed in 1 year? The same day he is stayed for repeatedly refusing to follow the law, he issues another activist decision. We will keep appealing these lawless decisions, and we will keep winning. The question is, how much embarrassment can this judge take? All of it. He can take all of it, because there's a reason that this is happening, whether it's activism, whether it's his own personal opinions, whether it's some sort of benefit, whatever the case might be, there's a reason that this guy keeps doing this.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, let's
but before we move on, I just have to say something. KL Bandy 7 in the chat posted and said, I'm not too active here, but Badlands is my community. I would like to ask for prayers for my 40-year-old son in the hospital with heart issues, previously undiagnosed BAV, just scary. I just looked up what that is. And it's a heart condition. And yeah, KL Bandy just saying prayers for sure for your son. Everyone say a prayer for KL Bandy's son. That is scary.
Amen. So sorry to hear that. We'll absolutely keep your son in our prayers there. All right, let's jump into this clip here. This is a bit of a longer clip. President Trump signing J.D. Vance and Andrew Ferguson into the anti-fraud czar, right? As the anti-fraud czar. And the timing on this is very interesting. We'll get into that after. But President Trump has some remarks in this, so I'm going to play the whole thing because his remarks are worth it.
Right, appreciate it. This is a very big thing that we're doing. It's about fraud, having to do with all the fraud that's taking place in our country. And we have two people that are extremely brilliant and just very talented, and they're going to be put in charge. But I'd like to ask Will, if you would, to give a little description of what we're signing, the executive order, and then I'll ask JD to speak.
Yes, sir. As you stated in your State of the Union address, in light of widespread revelations of fraud in federally funded programs in states like Minnesota and California, this executive order in front of you will establish a new task force aimed at rooting out that fraud, returning potentially billions or tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of dollars to the American taxpayer. This task force will be chaired by the vice president. The vice chairman will be the head of the FTC, Andrew Ferguson, who's with us here as well today. But this is going to launch a whole of government approach to rooting out the very serious problem of fraud in federally funded programs around the country.
As an example, you've been seeing it and seeing it pretty big in Minnesota, $19 billion. But that's only for one little aspect of the fraud. It's $19 billion, and California, as they say, is 10 times worse, and other states are 10. And this is not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is wherever it's taking place. It seems that it's usually in blue states. If it's in a red state, we're going there too. But it seems that it's heavily, heavily, heavily Democrat. And what they've done is so sad. When you look at the Minnesota scam, a lot of it has to do with Somalia. Nobody's calling out anybody, but a lot of it has to do, but it's Somalia and plenty of others. And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it, and you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about. The theft is incredible. And I think JD will make, and Andrew will make a charge later on that local states should handle nursing homes and all of these things that the federal government shouldn't be involved in. It's too big. The federal government should handle military and a couple of other things.
Yes.
But
hell
when it
yeah.
comes to nursing homes, you saw where a young gentleman was going around and knocking on doors, and none of the nursing homes existed. None of the nurseries existed. The money that's being paid out, and the federal government pays for it. When you see all these people coming in illegally into our country, many criminals, many drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders. And you look at California, and more come in, and yet they never had money, and yet they pay them. You know why they pay them? Because the federal government is charged with paying. We're not paying them anymore, and I said that. So these two really smart guys are going to be. I think it's going to. Hopefully, it's going to be JD's. This will not be like a Kamala where she was put in charge of the border and she never went there. JD, right? You promise?
I promise, sir.
Remember, Kamala was put in charge. She was the border czar. She never went to the border. She never called any of the great border patrol. The border patrol testified. We never spoke to her in 4 years. And that was a disaster. But this is different. This is a different group.
All right. So, I mean, first, yes, please. The federal government, military, our border, and that's about it. Other than that, GTFO. Maybe some national.
Sounds like the takes we've been given here on Badlands. It's like, yeah, you just need a handful of things. And dude, I mean, that's the guy that we voted for 10 years ago. That's the guy that we sent there to do a mission. And yeah, and he hasn't. I don't think he's forgotten that mission at all, despite all the covfefe. But yeah, this actually makes the appointment of JD Vance start to make more sense for people. You know, there's questions back and forth about a lot of people in the administration. But the fact that he brought somebody in who comes from the tech world, right? Who understands AI, who understands technology, who understands how you can weaponize AI to hunt down corruption and basically fix the government. I mean, I don't think it's at all unreasonable to say that the same way that people fear AI being used to surveil the people and install a police state, we could easily use AI to surveil the government and basically run a police state against the government, against the corrupt government. And so this makes a lot of sense. So I'm eager to see what happens. There's a big difference between Donald Trump sitting behind the Resolute desk as the president, accusing Tim Walz of being involved in this, and candidate Trump at a podium at a rally saying,
yes.
I think those are two very different things.
Yes. And if he's doing that from behind the Resolute, he knows, you know, there's gotta be, you know, some knowledge to it. And so all of this signing of the executive order, purely coincidence, I'm sure, comes amidst Nick Shirley's most recent expose, and this was in California. He put this out on X. Here's the full 40 minutes of my crew and I exposing California fraud. Minnesota was big, but California is even bigger. We uncovered over $170 million in fraud as these fraudsters live in luxury with no consequences. Like and share. We all work way too hard to pay taxes for this to be happening. These fraudsters have been able to defraud American taxpayers for years without any pushback. Now, we're going to and Ash, you can confirm this, but I think tomorrow on Daily, we're going to have a segment with one of the women that's involved in this joining us. So I just want to show you guys real quick, just if you haven't seen this video, it's well worth the watch. And again, this is the kind of the good thing about this is it's taking a little bit of the pressure, I don't want to say pressure. It's taking some of the focus off of exclusively the Somali community, because right after Minnesota, everybody's like, oh, you're only attacking the Somali community. Well, this is outside of that now. You think you've got Armenians in here. I think there's Russians in here, Somalians as well. But it's kind of broadening the scope in terms of being able to focus and say, that's racist. You're only focusing on the Somalis. Almost every one of these buildings you see in this converted motel are now hospice facilities, individual hospice, home health care businesses. And it goes all the way around. This is only a quarter or half, I guess, of the building. First floor, second floor. Insane when you watch this and see what takes place. Goes by and nobody's in any of the offices. When they do answer the door, they don't know anything, like that kind of shit. And he's going through with the documents. This is how much he received in federal subsidies. $3 million, $10 million, $100 million, $1 million, excuse me. It's insane. And, you know, with JD Vance now leading this task force, I'm willing to kind of goose fraba a little bit on this, but this is low hanging fruit. When you are a government contracting, you know, your job is approving government contracts, right? When you're the person that is supposed to be approving these and you don't have a means of telling that you have 30 businesses within 100 feet of each other, 200 feet of each other that do the same exact thing, and you're paying out millions of dollars to these businesses, and that's not setting off red flags, that is a fundamentally flawed system. And that is the low-hanging fruit that nobody has even gone as far as investigating. Like, we've got a lot of home health care in this one particular property, which was a converted motel. Now people paying rent, as kind of staples within that motel. It's probably a little bit more lucrative of a business than having to worry about, homeless people coming in and out to, rent a room for an hour to be able to get a fix, or, prostitution, whatever the case might be. This was so fucking simple, and nobody catches this stuff, is my point.
Yeah. It's and again, like, there's so many different issues at play here. Like, when Trump says the federal government shouldn't be involved in any of this, I would agree. Like, the federal government shouldn't be involved in any of this. It's an enormous bureaucracy which only presents opportunity for grifters, thieves, cutthroats, bandits to get in there and siphon off money. Most of the money that I think our government spends is probably fraud. I think that the majority of it is probably just being stolen. When you look at the numbers of the money we spend, and then you look around at the society we have, it kind of the results speak for themselves. And then, of course, there's the there's the whole tariff discussion, like tariffs replacing income taxes. Really what it's about, the tariff fight is about keeping us as slaves, because once they have you on an income tax system, just a taxation system in general, they gradually expand it to the extent that you are just working for them all the time. Every time you get up and go to work, you're just working for them, and then you're a slave of a tax slave of the state. That's why they don't want to get rid of that. They don't want the tariff system, because the tariff system is supposed to replace, I think, the tax system. And then once you have a tariff system that is funding the government, the discussion about how to spend that money becomes a very different animal, because you're not extracting the wealth and the energy from the people. It's just coming as a byproduct of something that's already happening, which is economic trade with foreign businesses, foreign countries. So many different things happening there. I also saw Bama Cat in the chat say to reiterate the idea of folding ICE into the military, which I know many of us have said here on Badlands. I think those are the kind of efficiencies that we can see happen that make a lot of sense, because I do see border security as like a military issue. Like, border security is a military issue. And I think in every other country, in most countries, it's treated that way. In most countries, border security is treated as a military program, and not like, a law enforcement or, homeland security or whatever. It's a military program. And the reason it should be treated that way is because the focus should be on foreign threats, right? The focus should not be on surveilling the American people in like a police state situation, which is what DHS was always set up to become under the Patriot Act.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about fraud, but real quick, let's take a break real quick and hear from another sponsor. Well, we'll talk about GART first.
Patriots, the fight for truth doesn't stop at the screen. It's hitting the road again. Badlands Media is rolling into Nashville on April 9th through 12th for the next stop on the Great American Restoration Tour. Join your favorite Badlands hosts and like-minded Americans for 3 powerful days. Packed with unfiltered discussions, deep dive panels, and real debate. Hear the raw truth, ask the tough questions. No topic too hot, no question too bold. GART is where our community comes alive. Tickets are on sale now at badlandsmedia.tv/GART, where you can also grab a virtual pass and watch from home. Join us to question narratives and fight for America's future. Nashville is calling. The restoration continues. Get your passes today. See you in Music City.
All right. Badlandsmedia.tv/events. Get your virtual or in-person GART 11 Nashville, Tennessee tickets and start the fun early with the exclusive live streams. The GART ticket holder's second live stream will be this Thursday, March 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern, and the link will be sent out to you guys on the 19th at 1 p.m. So you got, don't be afraid. It's going to come an hour before. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/events for tickets. All right. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. Had to run down there. My dog Cash was being a terrorist, and he escaped from the studio. And he's afraid of his own shadow, so everything that moves, he barks at. And I had to get him in here, so because he was firing up the other dogs. All right, let's also let's talk about lean. Oh, that's not lean. That's the next pork. You understand that in a second. Everybody is talking about weight loss injections because the results are oh so dramatic. They work by lowering your blood sugar and reducing appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight, but you're not interested in painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? That's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. Let's get you started with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. Visit takelean.com and enter Badlands for your discount. Again, that's promo code Badlands at takelean.com. All right. And there we go. Let's go ahead and jump into our next news story. And from the New York Post, we're going to stay on the fraud here for just a minute. New York City spent roughly $81,000 per person on homeless services last year. Pretty badass picture of an F-15 right there. $81,000 amounts to a whopping $368 million in total bills, according to a new state report. Spending on the, quote, Street Homeless Solutions Program division, more than tripled over the last 6 years from $102 million in 2019, or about $28,000 per unsheltered homeless person, to $81,000. Insane bloat. The cost per person was roughly equivalent to the city's median household income as of 2024 census, $81,228 annually. Let that sink in for a minute there, Ghost. I know. The F-15s are distracting for me too. Let me scroll down a little bit more. I'm a huge air junkie, and I could just sit and watch those fly all day long. One of the things I'm envious of General Quas, that he got to play around in those for so many years. No, but think about that. $81,000 is the median household income. The state is spending your money that you go out to bust your ass for. You know, if you're making $81,000, you're probably not working a job in a corner office up in a skyscraper overlooking Central Park, right? You're probably working your ass off. And they're paying homeless people. Well, they're not paying them that, but they're paying for services for homeless people, which means the homeless people are probably getting like the 28,000 still, and the other 53,000 is going to making NGOs and contractors very wealthy. That to me, like, I mean, how do we've known about this for a while. We haven't gotten an expose quite like this, but at what point do you check out of this system? This is fundamentally broken.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, I mean, when you consider that, income tax, federal income tax is roughly what, like 20-25%. That means that when you wake up on Monday morning and you go to work, you're working for the government. You're not working for your family. And that's the way to look at it, is that one day a week, you are not working for yourself. You are working for the government. And then to turn around and see, it'd be one thing if you actually had like a high utopia, if you were living in a high utopia and that was the trade-off. I still think that there would be a debate to be had over that, but it'd be one thing if they were actually spending the money responsibly, but they're obviously stealing it. And then the money that they're not stealing, they're spending on crap like this, which is creating social incentives for people to be homeless, right? As opposed to like clean up their life and bounce back from whatever it is that has put them in those circumstances. Meanwhile, they're flooding the streets with drugs. They're encouraging kids to be degenerates, not work hard, not embrace traditional family values. I mean, this is obviously an operation that is a conspiracy that is being run against the American people by a sophisticated network of operators that are probably involved in every sector of our society.
I think, to your point about the tax, isn't April 15th the tax day because that's, the general average of when your income is going directly to you from that point forward? Like if you were to somehow, pay all your taxes in a lump sum, it would be essentially what you make from January to April 15th. I'm almost positive that's true. If y'all correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but the average tax bracket, what is it, 26%? That would mean, that from January until about April, first week of April, you are working essentially for the government for your taxes, federal and state tax.
Yeah. I guess you're from like a calendar standpoint. Yeah, 3 months of the year is 25% of the year. So yeah, I mean that's the interesting way to look at it. I'm not sure if when they instituted that, what the income tax was. I think the income tax has incrementally grown over the years.
Well, it's grown and gone. It's gone up and down, but
yeah. But I think you're probably right. And then of course, it's like it's not just the income tax. There's like all numbers of tax, all kinds of taxes that your money is taxed consistently. It's taxed when you earned it. It's taxed when you spend it. It's taxed when you leave it to your children. I mean, it is insane what these cutthroats and thieves have done. And they do it with a coat and tie on, and with a smile, looking into a camera, and people think that means they're important and have authority, but really they're just thieves. Just like the guy on the street who will knife you and take your wallet. No different from that, actually.
Yeah, think about that every day when you go to work. The first 2 or 3 hours you're working for the man, and then the rest of the time you get to take that home to your wife and kids, or husband and kids, or whatever.
All taxation is theft, and that should be the baseline. That should be where we start with that negotiation, with that discussion. Is all taxation is theft. Every form of it is theft. It is you're taking money from somebody against their will, and even in the Bible it says that is immoral and wrong.
And it's getting more and more egregious, especially when you see the means by which it's being squandered and wasted, and it's making fat cats richer. And this is this is something where I think that the progressive left has a lot of merit behind some of the claims they make about the billionaires paying their fair share. I don't necessarily agree with that, but when you look at how the billionaires are making those billions, it all ties back, I believe, not just to the specific avenues of fraud we're talking about here, but other forms of manipulation, right? SNAP benefits. Who does SNAP benefit the most? PepsiCo, Doritos, all these food brands, and a lot of it's fraud. Not all of it, but a lot of it is fraud.
And a lot of them became billionaires with government contracts because they're giving taxpayer, including Elon Musk, by the way, got rich on government contracts and contracts with China. So it's that's how a lot of people become billionaires. The fact that Donald Trump didn't become a billionaire that way is a testament to him as a businessman.
Well, I mean, he did have his FBI folks at the Atlantic City hotels.
Yeah, and like my wife put on a Trump, like a negative, anti-Trump documentary the other night. And I love watching those because they just show raw footage of Trump, and I don't care about whatever their narrative is. Like, I just love watching old footage of Trump, and they try to present the tax abatements as like him stealing money. And when they're saying that a tax abatement is just that you're going to invest $1 billion, build a building in a part of town that nobody wants to be in, and that's going to bring business to that part of town, right? So for the next 40 years, you shouldn't have to pay like exorbitant taxes on that business because it might fail. Right? You're investing in the city. That's the whole argument. The counter argument is, well, you're stealing money from the city. And the underlying premise of that logic is that your money doesn't belong to you. Your money belongs to the city. Your money belongs to the government. And that, you're stealing from the government by paying less taxes. That is a villainous worldview to have. And it is disgusting that we have so many people in this country who actually view it that way.
Yeah. Let's get back into this article. A couple key points here from that report. The Big Apple's unsheltered homeless population increased by 26% over the that 6-year period. 3,588 unsheltered homeless people were reported in 2019, while 4,505 were reported in 2025. Now, the difference between unsheltered homeless people and the actual homeless population is these are people that don't go to shelters, apparently. There's actually over 140,000 homeless people in New York City, and it clarifies that a little bit later on in the article. But at first I was like, holy shit, wait, we're spending $368 million on 3,588 people. There's the math ain't mathin' right here. But it says both the COVID pandemic and the migrant crisis contributed to the spike in street homelessness, but it remains unclear why spending surged at a higher rate than the population increase. So they're making the argument that, COVID and, the little downfall that came from COVID when the Democrat mayors and governors locked everybody up and told New York City and all these other liberal strongholds that you can't open your business. Yeah, that had an impact on the homelessness. But what else do you think, Gordon, around that time under the Joe Biden open border policy had an impact on the homeless populations?
Yeah, massive. I mean, they
migrants.
They tried to destroy the country with that operation, and that's why warp speed was so important in getting it and pulling us out, because the psyops were so intense.
They had a 78% increase in the homeless population since 2019 in New York City. 78%. Now, I don't care how horrible you are as a socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it, retard leader. 78% in 6 years is huge. And again, a lot of that, I believe, is not just from COVID and the economic downturn, but from the migrant policies. And as soon as those resources dried up, what were these people going to do? They don't speak English. They don't have driver's license. They don't have any foundation here in the United States. They have no assimilation to our culture. They have no ability. Like, what did you think was going to happen when you just dump these people in the city?
They knew exactly what was going to happen. That was the whole operation. And again, we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our forefathers. We owe it to our children to have a full examination, like a full autopsy, and it should be an autopsy because we should kill the damn thing. Whatever this thing is, this NGO network that brings people over from war zones that we create most of the time, by the way, and then plop them in places like Dearborn, Michigan, and Texas. And by the way, they're saying that because of the Iran war, millions of Iranian refugees are going to Europe now. So, for all the people who thought that, we should go bomb Iran because Islam is evil, well, your prize is more Muslims in your neighborhood, because once they get to Europe, they're going to make their way to the U.S. It's only a matter of time. There are NGOs in Europe waiting for them to arrive to bring them to the U.S. So, and again, this is nothing new. This is what they've been doing for the past 25 years, longer than that, really. But 25 years since the first time we went into the Middle East, guns blazing. So, it's important to understand that. I do think there's more going on than just that. I'm not just oversimplifying it to that thing, but we just need to be diligent in understanding this and really understanding that network, because I think that network is taxpayer funded. I think it's also billionaire funded, and I think it is designed to destroy America. It's designed to destroy our culture.
Yep. All right, we'll wrap up this segment here with this clip from Senator Eric Schmidt of New Jersey. Pretty base dude.
People are there tens of thousands of
Oh, hey, we don't want to listen to him on 1.75 speed. That would be pretty bad.
People are there tens of thousands of murderers, hundreds of thousands of violent criminals that are in our communities because of Democrat policies. And so we need to make sure DHS is funded. The deportations need to continue. And we also need to expand the category, Dana, of people who can be denaturalized and sent home, who are, reforming the legal immigration system, because I've got a bill called the Scam Act that would allow us to do that. So if you've committed acts of terrorism, if you've committed the welfare fraud like we saw in Minneapolis, if you're part of a cartel, if you're engaged in that kind of activity, we can denaturalize you and send you home. Sadly, right now, it's very difficult to do that. It's very rare. And so we need to close the border, which has effectively been done. The deportations need to continue, and we need to open up the process for denaturalization.
Let's go.
Yep.
Any comment on that before we jump into?
I think it, and again, this is because like I do a show with Alpha on Sunday, and there are a lot of people in that chat who get triggered on his channel, and think that I'm like I'm like a wuss that doesn't want to go fight any wars. And I know that you have a strong opinion on that, being an actual war fighter. But one of the big things about the Golden Age and establishing world peace and like working with the Muslim nations to actually bring them prosperity to the Middle East is incentivizing them to stay there, right? And also incentivizing the communities who have moved here to move back, because they probably would rather live there if their homeland was actually like prosperous and stable. So that is why we want peace everywhere, is one of the reasons, is so we don't have these like major like refugee crises where, you know, millions of people are moving from Syria and Iraq to, you know, Dearborn, Michigan.
One of the most, you know, one of the most eye-opening things I think that President Trump showed us, not just in his first term, but especially in his second term. And I, to be fair, I am a little discouraged by the last 2 weeks, but I understand that there's a purpose behind everything. But over the course of the first year of this term, one of the things that he made glaringly clear to so many people was that the weapons of war can be the pen and the tariff and the sanction and the, you know, economic implications of actions. And, you know, he went and solved a lot of these wars by saying, hey, if you don't knock this shit off, we're going to tariff you. You're going to lose access to the U.S. markets. We're going to stop shipping goods to you and those kinds of things. And that's long before, you know, bombs and boots on the ground. And that has been a great, you know, kind of, what would you call it? That's a great creed, you know, personal agenda, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of the word off the top of my head. But yeah, that was incredible.
Mantra is probably the word you're looking for.
What's that?
Mantra, I think.
There we go. We'll go with mantra. I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take that. But yeah, that's what he was doing. He was using the tariff as his weaponry, and it was beautiful to watch it. It was beautiful. Okay, so last thing before I kind of hand it over, actually two more things. So Eric Schmidt, we got him back to back here, also put this out about the Save America Act and kind of had me scratching my head, to be honest.
Okay, some big news on the Save America Act. It is finally coming to the Senate floor this week. I've been working with President Trump in the White House, and we'll be introducing a substitute amendment that would include not just a proof of citizenship to vote and photo ID, but also get rid of this mass mail-in balloting scam we've seen too many places, allowing mail-in balloting for military, elderly, people with disabilities or absence, reasonable things like that. And then also banning transgender mutilation for kids and also men and women's sports. These are widely popular. Be working with Senator Lee and so many others on the Senate to get this done this week.
Okay, so again, more hype behind the Save America Act, which unfortunately is, for all we can see, appears to be dead on arrival. You know, once they actually vote on it, we're going to have the pseudo talking filibuster during the cloture vote, but nothing once that's broken and, you know, we get to the actual final vote. There's going to be no filibuster. There's no talking filibuster. Again, you need the 60 votes or it's over. So, you know, it is what it is. The amendments are interesting because we've been told for the last, you know, month or so that no mail-in voting is, except for, you know, those proposed ideas, is already in the bill. The transgender everything, you know, what President Trump kind of tacked onto it a couple weeks ago. And it's almost like they're baiting them to either they know it's going to pass and so they're getting all this in there, or they're just making it less and less desirable for Democrats to have to, you know, kind of somehow justify this to their constituents. I'm not sure what the end game is here, but they're propping a bunch of stuff on a voting bill that doesn't have much to do with voting.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that a lot, you know, I've spent the past few weeks and really, I mean, let's be honest, years, trying to understand, right? It's like rather than because I expressed my disappointment when initially learned about the Iran conflict. But rather than get upset about it or get angry or any of that, it's like, let's try to understand what is actually happening, understand what the intent is. There's obviously data points that we're not going to get now. We may never get. And as I've said on my shows, like my mind is open to all possibilities, all explanations, and all realities, including the whole thing being fake, like Chris Paul argues, which I think a lot of those arguments are actually very compelling. Now, when it comes to the domestic stuff, I think what we have seen happen over the past few weeks is we've just seen the mask just fully come off the neocon Republican Party. And we've seen these people just go, especially since Maduro was arrested in early January, we've just seen these people go full tilt and talk about, we don't just want war with Iran. We want war with Cuba. We want war with Colombia. We want war with Mexico. We want war with China. We want war with everyone. Russia. I mean, bring on the next course of the meal, right? They want a 10-course meal when it comes to war, and they're not shy about that, saying that anymore. They're openly saying that and celebrating it. And I think Trump has given them a lot of hubris because they understand that Trump is wildly popular and he's the guy. And if all this ends up going wrong, he can be blamed for it. So I think they kind of hide behind that like fact that, like, you know, if this thing doesn't work out, we'll just blame it all on Trump like they did with Bush. And yeah, so like, why not ride this wave? It's like, here comes the wave. Why not ride it? Like grab your board, like, let's ride. That's what I think is happening. And so you're seeing right now, as it relates to the election stuff, they refuse to give you free and fair elections, regardless of whether the Save America Act is going to deliver true free and fair elections, and that debate can be had. They refuse to even give you a fraction of a free and fair election. And the optics of that are damning.
Yep. I agree. I think it's been one of the most revealing things. And this is, you know, this is probably one of the most delegitimizing efforts to thwart the Save America Act that we can see. And I think a lot of people are opening their eyes to this. And then, you know, you follow it up with the DHS funding. And granted, I know DHS is an unconstitutional entity, but in the meantime, the infrastructure is in place, and it is a staple in our lives. And people, you know, that are, especially with spring break, man, it's not lost on me. This took place over spring break as families are traveling and college students are traveling, and all sorts of people, college students, big demographic right there, right? Typically left-leaning demographic. They're now at the TSA and they're sitting there waiting 3-4 hours to fly out. They got cots lined up in some of these airports for them to, you know, sit on and sleep on while they're waiting to get through TSA, allegedly. And that's eye-opening, especially when it's the Democrats who have continuously pushed back on this, and it's Republicans. You know, I hate the Republican Democrat thing because they're the fucking same thing.
It's fake. Yeah, it's definitely fake.
All fake. Yeah. But at the same time, you tack that on with the Save America Act, and people are really starting to see the illegitimacy of our legislators.
Yeah.
All right. So before I hand this over to Ghost, or before we get into geopolitics, I should say, because I'm going to kind of kick it off, I guess. President Trump put this out on his Truth Social yesterday. Susie Wiles is an incredible chief of staff, a great person, one of the strongest people I know. But unfortunately, she has been diagnosed with early stage breast cancer and has decided to take on this challenge immediately as opposed to waiting. She has a fantastic medical team and her prognosis is excellent. During the treatment period, she will be spending virtually full time at the White House, which makes me, as president, very happy. Her strength and her commitment to continuing to do the job she loves and do so well while undergoing treatment tells you everything you need to know about her. Susie, as one of my closest and most important advisors, is tough and deeply committed to serving the American people. She will soon be better than ever. Melania and I are with her in every way, and we look forward to working with Susie on the many big and wonderful things that are happening for the benefit of our country. President Donald J. Trump. Now, of course, we're going to, you know, send all the well wishes that you ever could to somebody. My mom is a breast cancer survivor. She has now been 17 years breast cancer free. And she was diagnosed. I was telling Gordon the story beforehand. And, you know, I wish Susie Wiles all the best, but I truly feel like she needs to resign from that position. And here's why. When I was in boot camp, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I did not know. She did not tell me. She didn't want to, you know, distort my mission. My mission was to get through boot camp. And so on the last day of boot camp, you know, my senior drill instructor calls me down after the crucible, brings me to the commanding officer's office, and my mom is in there, and she tells me what happened. I knew something was royally wrong, like substantially wrong, because I could read her letters. And throughout the whole time, she was writing me letters that made absolutely no sense. And I was reading them to the point where I went to my senior drill instructor and was like, "Sir, I need to talk to my mom. Just read this letter. It makes absolutely no sense. It's complete gibberish." And it's called chemo brain. And when you're going through treatment like that, when you're going through chemotherapy, it adversely affects you in many ways, not just physically, but mentally as well. And, granted, I guess, there's checks and balances to ensure that she's able to do the job. I don't know. But chemotherapy is not, assuming she goes through chemo, who knows? Maybe she's got some, other treatment, and wish her well, of course. But if she is going through chemotherapy, that is a treacherous thing on your mind. And yeah, I'll land that there. So God bless her, and I hope she recovers from this fully.
Yes, prayers to her for sure. And I know that the opinions vary on every person in this administration, frankly. Susie Wiles is somebody who I'm very bicameral on, because while everyone points to her Zionist background and her history, what she did to Ron DeSantis in 2020 with Trump, where Trump sent her, 2018 rather, where Trump sent her to go help Ron DeSantis become governor of Florida. And then when he ran against Trump in 2022, like he announced he was running against Trump, I think she was kicked off of the 2020 campaign by Ron DeSantis, the Trump campaign. And then he sent her to Israel to help Netanyahu. She brought back all the intel, like that was reported. She brought back all the intel that she knew about DeSantis to help Trump just kind of like ragdoll him in the second half of Biden's term. So regardless of what her Zionist background is, DeSantis is definitely a Zionist, a hardcore one, and keeping him out of the White House and keeping him like basically humiliating him and destroying him as a presidential candidate. She seemed to be a big part of that. So I think you have to weigh and measure all this stuff from a game theory perspective. So again, like none of that really matters when it comes to like cancer and, wishing somebody well, but I just wanted to point that out. So yes, sending prayers for sure.
All right, let's get into some geopolitics here, and I want to start off. This is a story.
Let's just note, though, everyone's asked about in the chat. Joe Kent resigned, so like that. This happened as we went. Yeah, what's that?
Go ahead, talk about it.
Oh yeah. I haven't looked into it yet. I just saw that like after we went live, like it posted by the Hill. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it says top aide to DNI Tulsi Gabbard has resigned in protest of the Trump administration's war in Iran. Joe Kent, the director of National Counterterrorism Center, posted on X that he was resigning effective Tuesday. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Kent shared a letter addressed to President Trump stating that while he supports the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016 and 2020 and 2024, he disagreed. It's funny, 2024 is out of the quotes. He disagreed with the president's decision to launch the Iran operation. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further towards decline and chaos. You hold the cards, he wrote. The Hill has reached out to the office. Kent, a former Green Beret. We don't need to get into all that. Yeah, that's it. So he's resigning in objection to the war in Iran. Noble cause. Not going to hate the man for that.
Yeah. I mean, this actually makes me respect Joe Kent. Not because like I don't know what's going on with Iran. Like my mind's open. I said I was disappointed by it when I first learned about it. But if he truly feels this way, then him resigning is the honorable thing to do. If he can't do his duty in good conscience and good faith because he doesn't agree with the mission, then the honorable thing to do is to leave and not stay and try to be subversive or whatever. So that makes me respect him. And I think anyone, whether you agree or disagree with his position, you should feel the same way, that if he truly feels like he can't do the job because he can't agree with the philosophy. Now, if you want to believe that this is a white hat operation and that there's bigger things going on and that only a very small core group of people are read in, I doubt Joe Kent's one of those people. So that would be an explanation for that, right? That he would.
Why do you think he wouldn't be read in on that as
I don't know.
The director of terrorism?
Well, I'm talking about if you're talking about the Q stuff, like less than 10, like if you're of that mindset. Now, of course, he's going to be read in on whatever's going on, I would assume, with Iran. But, if Trump is playing everything close to the chest, then I doubt he's bringing more new people into the fold, right? Because that would be an OPSEC thing, I would assume. So again, Tulsi Gabbard, she's probably the person I trust the most in the administration. So I look to her and what she's doing the most. And again, like she picked Joe Kent, and now Joe Kent's saying I can't do it anymore because I don't agree with this. I respect that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's only so much, the scope of the trying to think of how you would phrase this, the trust the plan crowd, right? The scope of that. I mean, they're constantly on their heels having to, backpedal on these things and say, well, this is happening because it's a grand scheme. And then we get out the wires and the ropes and we're drawing lines from here to here and here to here. Joe Kent is the director of counterterrorism, and he's telling you that the war in Iran was not an imminent threat.
Yeah. Which all of my calculus, and I'm just looking at this from, total like open source intelligence. I mean, I have no security clearance or friends feeding me intel. That was my read on it as well. And by the way, that's what Tulsi Gabbard also said multiple times in 2025. So again, like we'll see what happens, but we shouldn't overreact to any like one little development, no matter what it is. We shouldn't overreact. We should try to focus and understand. But anyway, let's pivot away from that. So we'll learn more, I'm sure, as time goes on. As it relates to things like that, Joe Kent resigning. We'll see what he does next with his life. Now you had some stories you wanted to start with. Take it away.
Yes, I do. All right, so we'll start here. So last Monday, and I know this because it was my mother's birthday, we put this story. Well, we reported on this story. Russia ready to supply oil and gas to Europe if it asks, says Putin. And now today we've got this story. Belgian Prime Minister De Wever, I don't know how you say that in their native accent, but Europe must strike a deal with Russia to end the Ukraine war. Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever. How do you say that? De Wever? You don't know?
I'm not sure. De Wever, I think.
Okay. Has called on Europe to reach a deal with Russia to end the war in Ukraine. And according to an interview published in the Belgian newspaper La Echo, he argued that a negotiated settlement is necessary to restore access to cheap energy. The EU remains divided on the issue, with Macron, Maloney, and Orban calling for direct talks with Moscow. That's interesting. I expect Maloney and Orban, but Macron getting in there is fascinating. While Poland and the three Baltic states, I think it's Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, the Baltic states, Ghost?
Yes, the Baltic states are all the ones around the Baltic Sea. So Latvia, Lithuania, yes, all the ones by Russia up there
are firmly opposed. Now, why do you think those four countries would be opposed to direct talks with Russia?
Because they're the ones that NATO really uses to oppose Russia, and they have been very, very oppositional to Russia for a long time.
They're also the ones that we've orchestrated color revolutions against that have
absolutely.
That have leadership that is favorably controlled by Western democracy. And
all these women you see running the EU who are like very young, and most of them are very good, or, attractive women who have overseen kind of like the decline of the EU. They all come from those specific states. And you're right, they're installed. There was that one chick who was very young and was like caught like partying during COVID and like going to nightclubs and doing drugs and stuff. And she was like the prime minister of, I think it was Lithuania, if I'm not mistaken, or Latvia. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, it says, quote, in private, European leaders agree with me, but no one dares to say it out loud. We must end the conflict in the interest of Europe without being naive towards Putin, De Wever said. He added that Europe must not repeat past mistakes in its relationship with Russia, stressing the need to rearm and deploy troops to its eastern borders. It's funny, Gordon, that let me finish this next quote. At the same time, this is a quote, at the same time, we must normalize relations with Russia and regain access to cheap energy. That is common sense, De Wever said. So you got two quotes and then an indirect quote sandwiched in between the two quotes. The indirect quote is calling to redeploy troops and everything else to the eastern border, the military industrial complex wet dream. I wonder what he actually said about that prompted an indirect quote, and you couldn't put it in direct quotes. They probably asked him, like, do you think we should send troops to the border? And he's like, well, it might be a good idea. And they're like, oh, he says we should redeploy troops to the border and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. That's exactly how the fake news works, for sure.
Exactly. Like, it's not lost on me that you have a direct quote saying that, the other leaders don't agree. There's turmoil in this. They agree behind the scenes. And then you have them saying we must normalize the relations, all direct quotes, but the rearming and redeploying is indirect. That's concerning. Quote, given that we are unable to pressure Putin by sending weapons to Ukraine and cannot suffocate his economy without U.S. support, only one method remains, making a deal, DeWeaver said. And I'll land that there. I know you have actually, one more thing. Bloomberg jumped in on this. And from Bloomberg, they said Europeans criticized DeWeaver's call to normalize Russia ties. Again, Macron is on board with this. So is Maloney. And so is Orban. Okay. Macron is the only nuclear armed nation, France, in the EU. So I guess technically Great Britain no, they left. What am I talking about? It says EU ministers, including Swedish Energy Minister Ebba Busch, B-U-S-C-H, not B-U-S-H, and EU Energy Commissioner Dan Jorgensen rejected DeWeaver's comments, stating that Europe will not buy gas from Russia and will not fuel the Russian war machinery. DeWeaver's comments were also criticized by his own government, with Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Maxime Prévost saying that normalization with Russia is not the same as dialogue and would send a signal of weakness. And so, Bloomberg in their little tweet post about it, European officials slammed a call by Belgian Prime Minister DeWeaver to cut a deal with Putin. I'll hand it over to you from there.
Yeah, so I read about this in the news brief yesterday, and this specific story, you'll recall that Trump was calling on over the weekend, calling all the allies to send ships, right? Like he was saying, everybody send ships to Britain and all of them, send ships to the Strait of Hormuz to help us protect it, right? That's what the whole argument was. So let's back up a little bit, because there was an interesting thing that happened on Friday with like the whole Karg Island thing. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
So Trump goes on Fox News with Brian Kilmeade. Listen to what he says to Brian Kilmeade. This is interesting.
Now here in 2026, you are president. Are you thinking about taking Karg Island, where 90% of the Iranian oil goes through? And what do you think about? Do you remember that interview and that school of thought?
Yeah, but Brian, I can't answer a question like that. You shouldn't ask it. And you shouldn't be even asking it. It's one of so many different things. It's not high on the list, but it's one of so many different things. And I can change my mind in seconds. But, if he had asked a question, who would answer a question like that? I mean, you're asking me a question, Karg Island, okay, everything. Who would ask a question like that? And what fool would answer it, okay? Let's say I was going to do it, or let's say I wasn't going to do it. What would I tell you? Oh, yes, Brian, I'm thinking about doing it. Let me let you know what time and when it'll take place. It's not, it's sort of a foolish question. A little surprising for you because you're a smart man.
I am, but you were just pretty amazing that you thought about it in 1988.
Yeah. So again, Trump just humiliated Brian Kilmeade, by the way. He's like, you're smart on this, Brian. You're like, what a stupid question to ask. Like, it probably wasn't that stupid of a question to ask, but I think Trump was kind of making a point.
Question. It was a very stupid question. We played it but you don't ask the president of the United States on public television unprompted about military strategy.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I think what he was doing is he was referencing a video that circulated from 1988 where Trump said, if I were to go to war with Iran, I would go after Karg Island. And Kilmeade, by the way, is speaking on behalf of the people he works for, which isn't, just Paul Ryan and Fox News. It's actually, in my opinion, the Israelis. Here's Yair Lapid, who is the opposition leader in the Knesset to Netanyahu, on March 7th. Israel must destroy all of Iran's oil fields and energy industry on Karg Island. That is what will cripple Iran's economy and topple the regime. This war must end when the regime in Iran has fallen. The nuclear facilities have been destroyed. All the ballistic missile industry has been destroyed, and Hezbollah has been destroyed in Lebanon. And what's interesting is Trump goes on that show with Kilmeade, right? Says all of that, and then a few hours later puts out this post. Moments ago, at my direction, the United States Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Karg Island. Our weapons are the most powerful and sophisticated the world has ever known. but for reasons of decency, I've chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. And he goes on to talk about the first term of rebuilding the military. Again, there is some goofy stuff happening here, and this is all narrative warfare, in my opinion, because Trump is kind of like bait and switching and leading them along, I think. But going back to the kill me conversation, if you kind of take that and you extrapolate it to the entire Iran conflict, how many months did Trump say he was going to attack Iran and go to war with Iran? Like 5? Like he spent like 4 or 5 months being like, yeah, we're going to any day now, we're going to have a war with Iran. They better watch their ass or we might have a war with them. I mean, especially like the month or two before it actually happened. He was like literally posting, telling the Iranian people to take back their government and we would come in with the military and help them, right? That was early January. And we saw what happened there. We didn't help them. And then all of the Mossad agents got swept up by the Iranian security forces. So again, there's games being played here. I think if you extrapolate it out to the entire Iran conflict, Trump's kind of telling you, you're an idiot if you think that I would tell you before I would do something like military, that was an actual military prerogative, like priority or strategy. I'm not saying necessarily that there aren't missiles flying back and forth. I'm not saying that there's no kinetic action happening. It does appear that there are some things happening, and Matt Ehret did recently interview Vanessa Beeley a week ago, who lives in Lebanon, and she said that there's absolutely a war happening right now in Lebanon that Israel started after the Iran war began. Remember, they signed a ceasefire with Hezbollah. I think it was back at the end of 2024. Maybe the end of 2025. The Golden Pager incident, right? So back up though. Like let's just back up a little bit, because everyone is posting. There are a few videos of Trump that are circulating that I think are interesting. And everyone's looking at them and being like, well, this means Trump's a fraud. And this means Trump has betrayed himself and betrayed the people and is obviously like a puppet and working for the bad guys. Check out this video. This is from February of 2017, or I'm sorry, February of 2016. So this is before Trump even won the Republican nomination during the Republican primary.
Let Russia drop. For instance, this guy, Lindsey Graham. You have a guy, he's one of the dumbest human beings I've ever seen. He runs against me, okay? He runs against me for president. He starts off at 6%, and he hits me. And I start, although I did give out his phone number. I mean, that's really. But anyway, he starts hitting me, saying vicious things. And now he starts going down. He goes to 5%, 4%. He ends up at 0. Here's a guy running for the presidency. He's at 0. He leaves in disgrace, in my opinion. I think he's disgraced. He comes here. He thinks this is going to be good. He had like 2 points here, and I had 42, right? I was at 42. He's a sitting United States Senator from South Carolina. He's at 2%. I saw him on television this morning, and I think he lost it. He's saying, Donald Trump, he couldn't even talk. He was shaking. The hatred. They say, what do you think of Donald Trump? Oh, he went crazy. The guy is a nut job. I mean, and honestly, I don't want his endorsement. I don't want anything to do with him. And his thinking, he says, I know so much he does about the military. I could push him over with a little thimble. Boom. And I look at a guy like Lindsey Graham. Then I hear his theory on the war. You'll be in there forever. You'll be in there. And you'll end up starting World War III with a guy like that, too. We don't want World War III over Syria. Okay, we don't want do we agree with that? We don't want World War. But I watched him on Fox today. I have never seen a guy I don't think I've ever seen a guy so totally out of control. They mentioned my name. He went literally crazy this morning. So he got out of the race, Bill. He was at, is this correct? He was at 0. And he still didn't want to get out of the race. You know, I often say these guys that are 0, why do they stay? Wouldn't you I think I'd crawl in a corner and I'd hide. I would just sort of put out a release. I've left the race. I wouldn't even give a news conference. I'd be too embarrassed. But anyway, I think he's a disgrace. I think Lindsey Graham is a disgrace. And I think you have one of the worst representatives of any representative in the United States. And I don't think he should run. I don't think in this state, remember, I was at 42 and he was at 2 when he was running. In this state I'm talking about. He was at 0 nation. I mean, the guy was at 0 nationwide. I don't think he could run for dog catcher in this state and win again. I really don't.
And of course, Trump did go on to endorse Lindsey Graham multiple in his reelection, and then apologized for it, and then endorse him again, of course. And last time on Culture of Change, Ash and I played the video that he's referring to. Lindsey Graham on Fox News. We've seen all these videos before, where he's like, Trump is a grifter and an opportunist and a jackass, and if he gets in, he's going to start World War III. He has no idea what he's doing. But here's what Lindsey Graham was responding to that Trump referenced. Let's watch this. This is really interesting.
So Lindsey Graham says to me, please, please, whatever you can do. You know what I'm saying to myself, what's this guy, a beggar? He's like begging me to help him with Fox and Friends. So I say, okay, and I'll mention your name. He said, could you mention my name? I said, yes, I'll mention. And he gave me his number, and I found the card. I wrote the number down. I don't know if it's the right number. Let's try it. 202-228-0292. I don't know. Maybe it's 3-4 years ago, so maybe it's an old number. 202-228-0292. So, I don't know. Give it a shot. Your local politician, he won't fix anything, but at least he'll talk to you. So Lindsey Graham.
Yeah. So just to be clear, like I was tracking this stuff daily the way that we do right now back then. And I'll tell you right now, 4chan lit him up. 4chan lit him up. Everyone was calling him, texting him. He had to change his phone number. That was real. And yeah, I mean, Trump literally just took the guy's cell phone number and gave it out to the world and told them, said, call him and talk to him. I mean, and you can go to 2019, by the way. He was doing the same thing in 2019, saying Lindsey Graham's an idiot. He's a scumbag. I don't like him at all. 2019 as president. So him and Lindsey Graham were not getting along throughout his first term. They were only getting along when Trump was like in a pro-war posture. He's obviously baiting these people along, in my opinion, to get them to reveal what they really are and to get them, I think, to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do. That's why I'm taking the time to lay all this out. But now let's pivot to what you were talking about, because you'll recall that Trump asked all these countries to send their ships, and Britain's now refusing. Britain and Europe are in a total trap right now, a pincer trap, because here's why. They have they get natural gas from three sources. They get natural gas from Russia via the pipelines that come in from the east, which is mostly through Ukraine. Those have been stifled. Russia has cut off a lot of that stuff. Putin, right after the Iran war began, said, you know what? We might just cut off all natural gas that goes to Europe. Let them freeze. Like, they'll figure it out. They get LNG, which is far more expensive, that gets put on ships in the Persian Gulf, comes from Qatar, comes from Iran, comes from those places. Britain, of course, owns most of those oil fields in Iran, always have for the past 118 years. That's shut down, Strait of Hormuz. That leaves really one source of natural gas for Britain, or for England, or for Europe, and that's the United States. You'll recall last May that Trump renegotiated a bilateral trade deal with both Britain and the EU that basically said they are not allowed to develop their own natural gas industry. They have to buy from America. So they are now, and by the way, only buying from the Gulf of America is still going to cause energy prices in Europe to spike. That's what all the experts are saying, is that there's not enough supply for Europe to rely on just one vendor. They need Russia, basically. This is forcing them to their knees, and they have to come to the table and negotiate with Russia. There's no way around it. And whether they negotiate with Russia or Iran or Trump, all three of them are going to make the same baseline demand, which is you need to surrender Ukraine. You need to make a permanent peace with Russia, accept whatever terms Putin's willing to give you. That's what all three of them are going to tell them to do. And they're now completely in a pincer trap, because if they don't do that, then their entire economy is going to collapse, because Europe has been with its back up against the wall for many, many years now. I think I saw a 1 year over year, I think it was 2023 to 2024, a 75% increase in their energy costs. Like, that's not sustainable, guys. That's not sustainable. So they have been brought to their knees. And the target here, of course, is the European elite. They're the ones who are the problem, not the European people. But the European people have no political capital. They have no power. It's growing. Like these populist movements are growing in France and Germany and elsewhere. And to that point, we now have Donald Tusk of Poland saying there's a real threat that that Poland might leave the EU. So we're now seeing the fracturing. The fracturing is now occurring. With the EU is going to break up. NATO's going to break up too. By the way, this is all happening. And so it says the PM statement followed a presidential veto that blocked Warsaw from tapping billions in defense loans from the bloc. There is a real threat that Poland could leave the EU, Prime Minister Donald Tusk has said, after the country's president vetoed a bill that would have allowed Warsaw to tap billions in defense loans from the bloc. President Karol Nawrocki last week vetoed legislation that would have let Warsaw draw nearly $44 billion in low-interest EU defense loans, most earmarked for domestic arms firms. The government responded by convening an emergency cabinet session, authorizing its defense and finance ministers to sign the Security Action for Europe SAFE agreement directly, bypassing the veto. In a post on X on Sunday, Tusk accused right-wing parties, most of the opposition law and justice bloc, and Nawrocki personally of seeking a Pole exit. He claimed Russia, U.S. President Donald Trump's MAGA movement, and the European factions led by Hungary's Viktor Orban want to smash the EU, warning that for Poland, it would be a catastrophe and vowing to do everything to stop them. So this guy is not like right wing. He's a left winger, and he is not like pro exit. He is pro globalist. He's one of the people saying like we should use Ukraine to smash Russia. But he is openly saying if these people get into power, the right wing, they're going to take us out of EU. Hungary's already talking about doing that. All these other in Germany, you have the AfD growing year over year. They're going to do that. This is happening. Like they're all going to leave the EU just like Britain did. And it's going to be what's best for Europe. But breaking that up is so important because, again, Europe is such an important player in the financial system. And the financial system is how they impose sanctions on all these countries. It's how they use the power of the purse to bring every country to its knees so that that country can't engage in trade. Iran, by the way, I've learned is capable of producing, I think it's 7 million barrels of oil a day. Right now, they're only producing 3 million, and that is entirely due to sanctions put on them by America and Europe. And so I think the end game of this whole Iran situation is going to be, regardless of what is actually happening there, whether it's narrative, whether it's a real war, whatever, I think that it's going to be what happened with Venezuela. I think that it's going to be that Trump's going to announce a negotiation or a deal with them where we work with them and get their oil and bump it up to 7 million barrels a day, right? And right now we're working on building up Venezuela so they can produce oil too. This is going to be a net positive for the whole world once that happens. Okay. I'm sorry.
Let me just interrupt you there for just 1 second because I want to get your take on this. Do you think that because us getting the oil from Iran would be kind of counterintuitive to the Don Roe doctrine and regional spheres of influence? Do you think that because right now China is getting oil from Iran at a pretty hefty discount, almost 20%. They're saving it. It's guesstimated anywhere I think between $10 and $12 per barrel that they're saving by buying sanctioned oil from Iran. When that sanction is lifted and Iran is able to produce what it's supposed to be producing and get fair market value for the oil, that's going to be a pretty big hit on China's economy. And meanwhile, on the other hand, we're bolstering Venezuela's production. Do you think that's the goal, or do you actually think that we're going to try and get oil from Iran?
Well, I don't think the goal is for us to take the oil and we like as if we need it. Trump says that we're already energy independent. That may or may not be true. We'll find out with like the price of oil going up, and let's see what the price at the pump looks like coming in the next few weeks. But Trump claims that we're energy independent. We don't need the oil. The oil experts claim differently. They say that we could really use that to fill out the to supplement what we need in the short term. But regardless, that jump in production, if they more than double their output, that is going to be a boon for Iran. It's going to be a boon for the region. It's going to be a boon for the world because then the world's going to get more oil. It's going to bring the cost of oil down. Even Peter Navarro was saying that. He was saying if we can get their production up to the levels it's supposed to be at, 100% production or close to it, of their capabilities, their potential, it's going to bring the global price of oil down and it'll never go up again. So same with Venezuela. So again, I think Trump is running ops against people who want like the gatekeepers who control these resources. And remember, I mean, there are groups out there that are trying to blame all this on London and say that Iran is a city of London like proxy. Matt Ehret used to work with them, knows them personally, said that 10 years ago they were arguing and writing papers that said the complete opposite. So you should know that. But it is true that the Iran oil fields in southwest Iran are owned by British Petroleum. I think Beyond Petroleum is what they're called now. It was all of that was cultivated by the British government. The reason that Mogadeh was overthrown in 1953 and the Shah was installed was entirely because he nationalized the oil. And then the reason that the Shah was overthrown in 1979 is because he refused to renew the consortium agreement, the 25-year agreement that brought him into power in the first place. He refused to let Britain keep their oil. And so then the Ayatollah came in and Britain kept their oil. So again, like, it's important to understand that those dynamics are at play. It's not the full story and it doesn't explain everything, but I do think that is there. So we'll see what happens. I just saw that this is related to Iran because I do want to go talk about Cuba before we get out of here. I just saw this broke. Let me put this in a,
what are you doing?
So Israel has claimed it was Axios and it was behind a paywall. So I just went to RT to pull it up. But
Axios
Israel is
paywall. Go ahead.
Israel is claiming that they have killed Ali Larijani, which would be a big deal if that happened. So Ali Larijani is the secretary of the Supreme National Council or Supreme National Security Council. He's the guy who implemented devolution back in August. So, the idea, again, if you want to believe that we're actually at war with Iran, the idea that we're decapitating them like over and over and over again is silly because they publicly announced, Larijani publicly announced that they are doing a continuity of government protocol implemented back in August where the political powers of the Ayatollah were being devolved to the 31 governors, where the governors they had full autonomy, the full powers of the Ayatollah to negotiate with any foreign country for trade negotiations. The powers of the IRGC were being devolved to the lowest, like the low-level missile commanders, meaning that they could just pick a target and fire missiles. They don't need to ask permission to do it. And then part of that was the Ayatollah was removed completely from the chain of command, no longer part of the chain of command. And I think the logic behind that was, I think he was already dead, but they're saying now that he had cancer and he was about to die anyway, which is why he didn't mind martyring himself. But that was the logic from their perspective. And then the entire security and intelligence infrastructures were torn down and rebuilt because there was concern that they had been infiltrated by Mossad, which we learned they had been. That's what Israel and Mike Pompeo and all of them admitted to us in January, that they were infiltrated. So the idea that you're going to like decapitate Iran over and over and over and over again is just, they're still going to fight because, again, they've devolved their powers. Like they don't need a central commander. I'm not even like, there's speculation that you can't even negotiate the end of the war because there's no person to negotiate with because every commander is basically operating almost autonomously. So anyway, we'll see what happens, but this is a big deal. Larijani seemed to me like to be one of the more reasonable voices, as is Pezeshkian, as is Arakchi. Again, Pezeshkian, who's the president, he just came into the presidency last year after Raisi was killed in that helicopter crash, or I guess maybe it was 2 years ago. Pezeshkian is a heart surgeon by trade. He's not a mullah. He's not a radical. He's not a religious zealot. Arakchi has a similar background. Like I think he's a banker. His nephew was like one of the central bankers who was arrested in 2018 by Rouhani. And Q even posted about that. So it's weird. Like this whole development's weird. I don't know if this is true or not. If it is, that'll be a big deal. So we'll see what happens. There's speculation that Netanyahu's dead, right? We've seen AI videos come out. We've seen videos come out where he's at like a coffee shop getting a coffee, but that place is an hour away from his house. And people are like, well, why would you drive an hour just to put out a video like that? Again, we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of like fog of war. So I think you can't take anything at face value. You just kind of have to like take in data, put up a firewall around your emotions, and then just let it develop. And like, let's just continue to analyze and assess and digest. Going to, I guess,
Hang on,
Russia.
let's just we got to unpack the AI Netanyahu just briefly. All right,
Yeah,
we're not gonna beat it. You guys can go watch all the other lame podcasts if you want to go through and dissect every last second of this. But here's the clip that we're talking about here. Netanyahu put this out after being out of the spotlight.
First there was the 6-finger clip that came out, right?
Yeah, right.
The 6-finger clip came out,
which I don't think was 6 fingers. I'm with
and
George.
and then he came out and mocked that in a separate video. There was like a video where they were like, "How many fingers do you have?" And he was like, "Oh, 5," right? And then this video came out.
Yeah, so if you look down at his left hand, it's a little difficult to see. I've got a zoomed in and slowed down image, but you can see right here, left hand has the wedding ring on it.
Yep.
Next frame still has a semblance of the wedding ring. Next frame, by this one, it appears gone.
Yep.
And then by this one, there's no ring
wedding ring
visible at all on that hand. And this one's the worst.
You can clearly see it's gone right there.
Yeah, there's no ring on that hand whatsoever. And then you see right there, it begins to reemerge. And then, of course, when he lifts his hand back up, the ring is back.
Yeah.
So, look, could it be an artifact? Could it be a glitch? Yeah, sure, it could be. But when you factor in he's been gone for many, many months. He canceled meetings with President Trump. He's canceled meetings with other people out there in the middle of a war. It's very, very, very odd.
Yeah, and he was also absent from a security cabinet meeting, which he's never missed a security cabinet meeting ever, and he was absent from a security cabinet meeting. He has chaired every single one, and they held one last week. Here's the video right here. And instead, Israel Katz, the defense minister, was running it. So the speculation was, oh my gosh, he must be dead. And by the way, last week, I think it was 6 days before this came out, and this came out a day or two ago. Yair Lapid, who is an online influencer, Yair Netanyahu, who is Netanyahu's son. He's like 33, 34. He lives in Miami. He's an influencer. Like, he went and spoke at CPAC Hungary. He has a podcast, like all that stuff. He posts like 40 to 50 times a day online. He hasn't posted in like a week. So people are like, well, like, he hasn't posted, that must mean his dad's dead. Like, so again, I could also see, like playing devil's advocate, I could see Mossad putting this out to make everyone look like an idiot. Like Netanyahu's alive, but they're going to say he's dead. So everyone jumps on that, and then it just discredits everybody. So I could see that happening too, right?
Could be.
Yeah.
There's also huge implications if they got Netanyahu. I mean, we kill Khamenei, and it's like, okay, no big deal, right? But if Iran killed Netanyahu, there's a lot of very powerful people in the globalist networks that would be pretty ticked off about that. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and so before that happened, earlier, I think last week, you had Itamar Ben-Gvir. There was like, for 2 days, there was rumors that he was dead. And then he posted online and was like, "I'm still alive. God be blessed. Everyone can go F themselves." That was his post. Now, again, somebody could just log into his account and say that. Like, doesn't mean it was him. But again, there's
Smotrich in that too.
Smotrich's son was injured in a Hezbollah attack in northern Israel, and he actually did.
Isn't Smotrich alleged to be killed too?
No, I haven't seen anything about Smotrich being killed. The people who were alleged to be killed were originally, it was Netanyahu's brother, it was Itamar Ben-Gvir, and it was David Barnea, who is the head of Mossad. Now, I haven't seen anything about David Barnea, so like saying he's alive. So I don't know. But again, like, the psyops are thick, so we just have to take everything with a grain of salt. I haven't jumped on anything and been like, well, this is true, this isn't true. Who knows? But it's interesting now that this Netanyahu thing happens. It's dragged on for many days. Now they're saying Ali Larijani's dead. Who knows? But Iran did come out and say that they were targeting the leadership of Iran, and it sounds like China was helping them with the targeting. So again, like, who knows? But it is what it is. A lot of this is just narrative. It feels like it could just be like them going back and forth saying, "Oh yeah, you got us. We're dead. We're totally dead." And then they get complacent and then they do a counterstrike, whatever. But what has happened, as I pointed out, is this: Israel has mobilized a massive ground invasion of Lebanon. All of the leadership, not just Netanyahu and like the crazies who run the security cabinet within like the religious zealots, but also like Yair Lapid, Naftali Bennett. Those are the opposition guys to Netanyahu. All the political leaders across the spectrum in Israel are calling for southern Lebanon to be annexed into Israel. And they're saying we should have everything south of the Litani River. And remember, Matt Ehret interviewed somebody, a friend of his, who lives in Lebanon, and says, yes, this is actually happening. But there is fighting happening right now. And so this is the red area you're seeing right here would be the area that they're talking about. And here's where it gets interesting, because last week, this was after I was on the show, Netanyahu, the pardons department came out, and you remember, like, there was a whole pardoning. Trump saying Netanyahu should be pardoned. Herzog, the president, don't be a coward, pardon Netanyahu. Well, there's a process for that. There's a thing called the pardons department, which does a 60 to 90 day review of the request, and then gives their recommendation on whether or not the president should pardon the person. And that was back in December. So I said, we're probably looking at like an early March, late February decision. And it came out and they said, we don't recommend a pardon, actually. None of this meets the criteria. So no pardon for you, Netanyahu. And Herzog will likely lean on that and say, yeah, we're not gonna do that. This puts Netanyahu in a bind, CannCon, because now he has Damocles' sword hanging over his head. There's an election coming up in October, regardless of whether or not the support remains around him in the Knesset. Yair Lapid and Naftali Bennett are heavily, I think, favored to potentially win unless Netanyahu is able to either defeat Iran, get them to surrender, or expand the borders of Israel. I think if he expands the borders of Israel, if he demonstrates that he can achieve greater Israel, which they've all said now they want, like even the left-wing guys are like interested in this idea, then I think that's going to give him some public mandate to stay in power. So he is, I think, going to aggressively pursue that mission, regardless of what President Trump says, regardless of what President Trump does with Iran. And you're already seeing Trump like position himself for the off ramp to be like, yeah, I think the war in Iran's over. Like, we're pretty much done. They're wrapping things up. Should be wrapped up here pretty soon. And meanwhile, Israel is saying, oh no, there's no timeline. They actually announced yesterday 3 more weeks of war at least from their perspective. So they have at least 3 more weeks of bombing campaigns. And because of Lebanon, they're doing the largest mobilization of reserve forces in history, 450,000 reserves being called up. And for context, since October 7th, in total, that's what, 2.5 years, they've only called up 370,000 reserves. And now they're calling for, and you'll remember that for like 2 years, they've been trying to get 10,000 troops. They're like, we're 10,000 short of having a full deck. We need these yeshiva kids, these ultra-Orthodox students who have always been exempt from military service. We need them to serve. And there's been a big political fight about that, about whether they should be forced to conscript. That's 10,000. Now they're saying they're going to get 450,000, which means they're going to have to go deep in like getting older people who normally wouldn't be serving. That means their workforce is going to be hit. Their economy is going to be devastated. People are going to have to shut down their businesses, stop going to work. It's really going to screw things up, I think, for them economically if they actually do this, the 450,000 reserve call up to invade Lebanon. But Netanyahu, if he loses the election, he's probably going to prison. That's what it looks like, because there's enough political animus within Israel, I think, toward him, where they basically want to pin everything on him, pin October 7th on him, all of like the ill will and the world contempt toward Israel. They're going to say this is all Netanyahu's fault, put him in prison, throw away the key. He's George Bush 2.0, and then we'll all move on. That's what I think their plan is. So I think, in my opinion, Trump has created this entire situation where he has pitted all these people against one another. And now it's game theory. Now it's playing out. And again, you're going to see Netanyahu aggressively pursue war, because I think that's how he stays in power in his own mind, is by expanding the borders of Israel or defeating Iran. Last thing I'll say, because again, I think it's really important that we focus on signal, find the signal in the noise. Well, Thursday night, Diaz-Canel, who is the president of Cuba.
Hang on. Before you transition to Cuba, we got to hit a sponsor real quick before we get to the end of the show, guys. They can cancel your accounts. They can freeze your cards. They can decide what you are allowed to say. Sorry, guys. I just had a little hiccup there. Excuse me. You're allowed to say support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. You can buy digital assets like Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators that you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect your future, to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download the Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, and true financial freedom. All right. Thank you to Rumble Wallet. All right. Go ahead, Ghost.
Yeah. And it's worth noting, we're not going to get a chance to talk about it, but it's worth noting like the clamp down on anti-Semitism that's happening. The people calling for Tucker Carlson to go to prison. The people calling for, we covered all that on Cultural Change last night. You can go watch that if you're interested. I'll probably talk about it on my show a little bit today, about like what is incitement, like what is the Supreme Court actually said is protected speech and what isn't, because they're trying to say that Tucker Carlson inspired the shooting last week at that Jewish school in Michigan, which is not true. That's like, it does not even come close to meeting the incitement law. What he would have had to do is he would have had to say somebody should go shoot up a school, a Jewish school, like sometime this week. That would have been incitement if he had said that. If he had said somebody should go shoot up a Jewish school sometime this week, and then it happened, that would have been probably incitement. But that's what the law requires, is that level of like specificity. So anyway, so here is Thursday night. You had this guy who is Miguel Diaz-Canel. He is the first non-Castro family member to serve as the leader of Cuba. He came into power in 2021. Don't really know much about him. I don't know like what his background is, whether he would be considered, from like a white hat operation, or if he's like the counter, like the deep state trying to get their guy in. But we got the signal last month that Marco Rubio had a back channel with Raulito Castro, El Cangrejo is what they call him, the crab, right? Like the 41-year-old Castro family member. And they said he's much more reasonable than his elders. He's more open-minded to like enterprise and capitalism. And the speculation in that Axios article last month from Mark Caputo was that he was going to be installed by Trump as the leader of Cuba. Then Trump came out and said, yeah, I actually don't think I have a problem with the Castros remaining in power as long as they're agreeable and like are easy to work with. He said the same thing, by the way, about the Ayatollah. I have no problem with the Ayatollah being in power as long as he's friendly to the U.S. and Israel. So then this guy calls an emergency press conference Thursday night. He says tomorrow morning is going to be an emergency press conference. There's a press conference. It's him and Raulito Castro sitting side by side with other people in the room. It appeared to be pre-recorded, but all he says is that we are formally in negotiations with the Trump administration. We are formally talking to them. In the midst of this like energy embargo that Trump had imposed on Cuba. And then after that, we see that there's like a total blackout on Cuba. Like the electrical grid has gone down now. We saw that night. This was Friday morning. Friday night, there was like color revolution style attacks started happening across Cuba. A lot of people online were like, "Oh, the Cuban people are rising up and taking back their country." And I'm like, "Well, if the Cuban president just said he's negotiating with Trump, is that like a good thing? Like why wouldn't we just negotiate with the government and as opposed to like launching a color revolution, right?" So I think it's probably the deep state responding to the fact that these guys are now cooperating with Trump, and Trump's plan is to install a Castro family member back into Cuba, because the demand from the neocons has always been baseline. The Castros have to be thrown out of Cuba, and many of them should be prosecuted for war crimes. That's what the baseline demand from the Republican Party has always been. And Trump is now saying, I would rather keep somebody in who knows the country and knows the people, so we don't fall into an Iraq 2.0 situation where we end up with ISIS leading the country. That's what he said about Venezuela. That's what he said about Iran. And that's what he says about Cuba. So we'll see what happens. But very notable, very, very notable that that happened with Cuba. And so here's the nationwide blackout story. This is from yesterday. And then Trump, of course, said this, which, again, I think Trump is like leaning into this like villain rhetoric. I think he's kind of like trying to be the Joker. He said yesterday, I can do anything I want with Cuba. Like, Cuba belongs to me. I control Cuba. Same thing he said with Venezuela. Same thing he's kind of implemented, like implied with Iran. You know, he's the king of the world. He can do whatever he wants. And again, I think he's baiting people to respond to that in certain ways that is going to fracture certain groups and make people kind of expose themselves. I think he's running ops against all these bad actors from different factions who are anti-MAGA and anti the American people controlling their destiny, and anti-Golden Age.
Yep. He laid it out at the press conference. Venezuela is the formula. We're not going to get away from it. I don't know if you saw the Todd Blanche post I shared this morning. I didn't even catch this, but 2 weeks ago on March 3rd, Reuters apparently said that Trump is going to be arresting Delcy Rodriguez. And I was like, and Blanche comes out and he's like, this is absolutely unequivocally false.
Retarded.
Like, yeah, exactly. President Trump has been out here saying Delcy Rodriguez and what happened in Venezuela is the formula. He said it about Iran, and he's pushing it with Cuba next.
Yeah, a week or two ago, they put out rhetoric that they said that Trump has decided to no longer recognize the Venezuelan government because like problems or whatever. And then that day, you had, I think is it Chris Wright, who's the energy secretary? Yeah. He was in Caracas and did like a press conference with Delcy Rodriguez and announced like all the stuff we're doing now with them and building out the oil infrastructure. And then Trump, a few days later, I think it was last week, formally normalized relations with Venezuela, and then has said in the press conference yesterday, they're our greatest ally. They literally are our like closest ally now. So, and again, the Maduro government.
Yep.
By the way, guys, Maduro's in court today.
Today's
his arraignment. Yes. So we're going to find out something about Maduro. It could just be scheduling the case, like the trial. But Maduro's in court today. So.
All right, guys, if you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up. Point of privilege right here. I just want to let you guys know on Fridays, Why We Vote, all shows are Why We Vote. All shows are Why We Vote now. But on Fridays, Why We Vote, Ash and I are going to be joined by Peter Tickton. So that is a show that you guys will absolutely want to tune into. Tomorrow on Badlands Daily, as I teased earlier, we're going to have Amy Reichert, who is one of the people associated with the Nick Shirley report in California, one of the people on the ground that's been doing the work down there. So Ash and I are going to have her on Badlands Daily tomorrow morning. And then also tonight on Badlands Book Club, I got a phone call that is directly related to the Stolen Elections book, and we're going to talk about it. It's kind of shocking. We are having an impact. We'll just leave it at that. But we'll talk.
Very interested to hear this because I kind of know a little bit about it.
He knows who called me.
Yeah, I know who called you, but I want to hear the full story. So I look forward to like watching that. Everyone should tune in and watch that.
So yeah, be sure to tune into Badlands Book Club tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We'll talk about it. I'm not going to get too into details because you'll see when you watch the show. All right, let's go ahead and jump into Rumble Rants here. Lee Walden, can we outlaw lawfare? If not, why not?
What's up, Lee?
I mean, kind of. We have slap lawsuits, right? Yeah. Anti-slap lawsuits.
Yeah, and I'm going to be on the narrative this Sunday, and I think we're going to talk about this effectively. We're going to talk about like honor, like restoring honor to our culture. I think if you restore honor, like a handshake, right? Like be a man who says what he means and means what he says. That kind of negates a lot of the lawfare stuff because everything is so litigious now because nobody trusts one another, and it's like everyone is trying to one up at each other and pull a fast one. And so everyone's so dishonest, and like that's a value system now in our culture, is like being dishonest and being unscrupulous. And so I think that restoring honor and integrity to our culture will negate a lot of that stuff. But good to hear from you, Lee.
All right, Lee Walden. When I served in the Coast Guard, my tax was identical to my 30 days of leave. That said, I paid for my own time off. ? Well, I mean, you should have been paid during your time off as well. Also, 30 days of leave. What the fuck? I joined the wrong branch.
Yeah, Lee, what's up, dude? 30 days of leave sounds pretty great. Like no matter what you're doing for a living,
right? We got like 2.5 days a year accrued leave. That doesn't include, they always would give us pre-deployment leave, but we were also going off to war. But anyways, Huck Fillery, thank you, Lee, by the way, Semper Paratus and Semper Fidelis. Just dropping in to catch up on some pledged Huck bucks, been on travel and haven't been in live chat for a while. Also, anonymity is its own autonomous awesomeness, and you're welcome. I've got that word mastered now. I don't want to hear it. Giving me crap always, always, always. Also, you probably should have heard. I think it was on Why We Vote when I was poking fun at the Huck Bucks. Or no, it was Fridays Daily with Chris Paul. I think that we were poking fun at that. So good to see you, Huck Fillery. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. We got to get out of here before John yells at me. John, blame this guy. Always.
Fine. I'll take it.
Ghost, happy St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, Irish. Go drink some Guinness or some Jameson or whatever you prefer, and we'll see you guys later.
Later.